Hello and welcome to Off Track. I'm your host, Dave Neal, and this week it's an absolute pleasure. We've been trying to work this out since January, but quite possibly one of the busiest men I've ever met is here, there, and everywhere doing his day job, which is, not your ordinary day job. This gentleman is a Hollywood stuntman. Ladies and gentlemen, Rick English. Rick, welcome to Off Track.
Hi, good to be here, and I'm glad we could finally sort it out.
There's been a lot of to-ing and fro-ing over the past 3 or 4 months, but you've been away on various projects. Obviously, for some reasons we can talk and some we won't, but we'll come to those later on. And the other, as we were talking just before we came onto the show, we're from the same neck of the woods as well. Even though we're not there now, we're both from our little corner of Lincolnshire.
That's right. Yeah, I grew up in Scunthorpe in Lincolnshire, and you just told me you were from Gainsborough, which is literally just down the road. We're on the next town, so it's pretty funny. I haven't lived there for a long time, but yeah, I still got family there and everything. And it's I was just saying it's that's the reason I can understand your accent perfectly.
We don't have an accent, do we? That's the difference. So, Rick English, Hollywood stuntman. The first question has to be, where did it all start?
It all started when I was really young, actually. I grew up probably like yourself watching Saturday afternoon TV, like the A-Team and especially The Fall Guy. I think The Fall Guy was like my favourite show of all time with Lee Majors in there, who played obviously a Hollywood stuntman that also sort of moonlighted as a bounty hunter kind of thing. But it always used to be... the show used to quite often open with him doing some elaborate action sequence, and then everyone coming and congratulating him, and he plugging off back to his trailer and chilling out and everything. I thought it looked super cool, and it kind of started from there. There was also, I was a massive Burt Reynolds fan, movie fan growing up. I used to love anything with Burt Reynolds in it, and there was a movie called Hooper, obviously, where he played a Hollywood stuntman in there. And again, it was just it was like my favorite movie forever. And it was then, I guess I was about 7 or so at that time. But, with school and everything, you get tied up into real life. And although I remember writing at school when they were asking what we wanted to do when we grew up, I remember writing I wanted to be a stuntman, and my teacher was pretty horrified about that. And I just kind of put it to the back of my mind for years. And then when I really started thinking about what I wanted to do later on in life, it kind of came back up, and that was what I wanted to do,
I remember those. I don't think we're not too far apart in age. I'm 48 now, so I think you just touching 40.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah.
We had the same kind of upbringing, and I remember exactly the same programs. The Fall Guy still has one of the best theme tunes to a TV show ever. And I remember in Hooper as well, Jan Michael Vincent was his sidekick, wasn't he? Yeah. So I remember those really well. But to take that forward to what you're doing is the most incredible story.
Yeah, it's funny because it's one of those things where, like I say, I knew that was what I wanted to do when I was young, and I was really kind of passionate about it. And you go out with your friends. At that time, it wasn't an internet mobile phone kind of age, so we were out on our bicycles every day and practicing tricks and messing around and transferring from each other's bikes and stuff. And it was like the greatest thing. But then you get kind of lost into real life and school, and then exams, and then college, and then you kind of, progress through a kind of natural, normal school system. And that dream that you had when you were young kind of gets lost a little bit, along with being a, fighter pilot or a spaceman or whatever, and I actually then moved down to London to become a personal trainer. And I was doing quite a lot of martial arts at that time. I was a Thai boxing instructor. And so I moved down to London to kind of pursue that and to get into personal training in London. And but still had one eye on getting into movies. I was more thinking I was going to go the sort of Jean-Claude Van Damme route and to be like an action actor or something like that at that time. I moved down to London to do that. And I met a lot of people while I was working at gyms in the West End in London, because we used to get a lot of actors and directors and that sort of thing coming in. I'd train them, and they'd come to my classes, and I'd coach them in fighting and stuff. And then they kind of asked me to start doing some bits for their movies of fight sequences and stuff. And that was when I really kind of picked it back up and started training specifically, knowing that was then what I really wanted to do. Rather than the actual training, I wanted to definitely do the movie thing. So
where did the passion for martial arts come from on the mean streets of Froddy Road and Ashby High Street?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I started with like the white suit stuff, like the traditional karate stuff when I was probably 7 or so, and I just thought it was a really cool thing to do at that time. So I kind of picked it up, and I probably only lasted a couple of years with that, I think. And then I sort of picked it up again when I was about 12. Decided I wanted to fight again and do that stuff, and so. Picked it back up then, and then when I got to about 15 or so, I started freestyle kickboxing, freestyle karate, and Muay Thai boxing, and I knew that was what I wanted to do. I just loved training and that stuff. I used to train literally 7 days a week, twice a day if I could. There was a club local to me, a really good club. I'm still friends with the guy that ran it there, and I owe him quite a lot. And yeah, I just never stopped since then. So that was probably about the age of 15 or so. I started taking it a lot more seriously, and it just became everything.
As far as going into the world of stunts involved, that's obviously going to be an integral part of where you started. It wasn't just the motorcycle side of things and the vehicular side. Was that where you made your start? Was the fight scenes and coaching and training for that?
Yeah, in the UK, to get onto the British Stunt Register, you have to be skilled in at least 6 different sporting disciplines. And they're at quite a high standard. So it'd be the equivalent of being like a black belt in martial art. You'd have to be the same standard in sort of 6 different things. And it just gives you a good all-round background in various things. Rather than training you for specific stunts, you'll have qualification. I mean, I did fencing, swimming, gymnastics, trampolining, martial arts, and motorcycle racing as my 6. And so I got to quite a high standard in those. And it just gives you the best all-round opportunity for work, the more obviously varied skills that you've got. I loved motorcycles all along. My dad was into bikes. My granddad was into bikes. My great-granddad was into bikes. So I've always loved motorcycles. And the same, grew up watching Street Hawk and watching the GPs, and Barry Sheen was my hero and everything. And so I was really into the bikes as well. And so then I started club racing quite late, though. Probably early 20s, I think I was, when I started club racing. Again, just because I got tied into other things. And it just seems like there's a lot more stuff available these days for people to pick up things a lot younger. Unless your family or your dad or whatever's racing and everything in those days, then it was hard to pick that stuff up. I remember one of the kids at school telling me that he rode motocross, or he had a motorcycle. And I was amazed at this. He was like the only kid in school that I knew that had a motorcycle at age 13 or 14 or whatever. And I thought that was amazing. I didn't get into it till much later, probably 15 or so, started playing with bikes and stuff, and then went into a bit of club racing and then into the trick riding from there. But it's always something that I was doing alongside the martial arts thing,
What were your favorite bikes growing up?
Not sure. I was actually into the motocross and stuff. Do you mean road bikes?
Yeah. Did you play about on the bikes on the street, or were you mainly on the track?
We had like field bikes. We had like pedal and pop bikes at that time. And then the thing was, when I grew up as well, no kids rode scooters. Girls rode scooters. The boys, when they were 16, they all wanted an AR50, an RD50, a DT50. You wanted these. If you were really rich, you wanted the RS50, the Aprilia. That was the one. But and then you used to put these 70 kits on them and micron pipes and all kinds of stuff on these bikes. But that was what everybody had, was kind of replicas of the bigger bikes. And you just try and make them go as fast as you could. And nobody had scooters at all. It wasn't a big thing. A few of the girls had, Honda Melodies or whatever. They had these little scooters. But yeah, scooters for guys wasn't a thing. And so we ended up just riding these 50s all the time and stuff. I did a DT50 when I was 16, and I loved that thing. And then it just kind of went from there. And I remember, actually, I was going to leave college, like 6th form, because I wanted to get a job so I could buy a motorcycle. There was a motorcycle shop in town, and they had, I think it was like a Honda Dominator 650 or something that was in there. And I used to walk past that and see it every day. And I was like, go to college or get a job and have a motorcycle. And I really wanted the motorcycle. But I didn't. I stayed in college and waited till a bit later on. But yeah, it's pretty funny.
I well remember the days of mine. I didn't ride when I was younger. I never had the opportunity, but a lot of my schoolmates did. And they had, like you say, they had the AR-50s, then they progressed to the DT-125s. And if you had a really good job, you had an RGV 250.
Wow, yeah.
Or a KR1S. And they were just, those were the days, Rick. Those were the days.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, RGV 250 and was it Pepsi colours or something? They used to do that bike in and everything. A
friend of mine back in town still has one, and he still runs it to this day.
That's amazing.
It looks a beautiful piece of kit. It's they don't make them like they used to, that's for sure.
Oh, exactly.
So you did a bit of racing. You did race at EMRA. Was it EMRA that you with the club racing?
Yeah, I raced a little bit with EMRA. Basically, I grew up in Lincolnshire, so my local circuit really was Cadwell, to be honest. So so I would race with whoever was holding meetings around the area. So EMRA used to run at Mallory Park. And so I was a member of them. I was a member of Derby Phoenix as well, which used to run at Cadwell and stuff as well. And what was the big club? Was it New Era? Were they called it?
New Era, yeah.
New Era, yeah. So I raced with New Era as well. And just basically any of the clubs. And I would only really race at specific circuits and stuff. I didn't have that much experience of track stuff, but I loved it. And I was on such a tight budget as well at that time. I had a GSXR 600. I think it was like a 97 or 98 Gixxer 600 SRAD. And it was a good handling bike. It was underpowered compared to a lot of what was coming out at the time. I think the Kawasaki's and stuff like that, and even the Hondas were way up on power. But I had a lot of fun, and I think I learned a lot from it, and it kind of stood me in good stead later on. And I'm glad I got the opportunity to do it, even at quite a basic kind of level like that.
There's a lot to be said for learning your skills at a club race as well, which then you took forward, and as you said earlier on, into the trick riding. And was that an evolution for you because of your mindset and where you were looking to go, and bravery? There's a lot of bravery involved in it as well. There is. The guys that you see doing it, I forget his name, Lee Bowers. That's the one. Lee Bowers, who was another one of the Chris at Express Coffee supported guys. Yeah. He watching what he does, and then taking that move from motorcycle racing to then always having that idea of the stuntman and doing the martial arts as well. Was that an accidental progression, or did you kind of think, right, this is where I'm going to go with it?
No, it's one of those things where I could always wheelie a little bit, but I wanted to be able to wheelie properly, and I invested a lot of time into that. I think I would have done that just because of my love of motorcycles, whether I was doing the stunt stuff or not. To be honest, doing tricks like that in the movie stuff doesn't really come up that often. You tend to do it more resetting to ones than you do in the actual take. But it's something I really enjoy. I think it's a different thing from racing, because in racing you see your progression through the stopwatch, and obviously if you're actually participating in a race, you see it through the results and comparing yourself to other riders. Whereas with the trick riding, you can really see the progression yourself every time you go out. Things are improving, and you get one more circle, or you get one, a higher wheelie, or you can slow it down a bit more, or you can take this foot off or take that hand off, and you can really progress every session almost. And it's clear to see that progression. Whereas it's a lot more difficult with something like racing. Taking a tenth off of your time probably didn't look any different to the lap before. It'll probably feel a lot different, to be fair.
Sure.
So I invested a lot of time into that. I think people don't realize sometimes how long it takes to get comfortable with something like that, to the point where you don't have to think about it, and it just becomes part of your skill set and of your riding. You've really got to commit to it and put weeks and months and years into it to get really comfortable with that stuff. And I still enjoy going out now. I went out yesterday and by myself just to the airfield, took the 2 bikes out there and put in probably 3 hours yesterday. And I felt progression yesterday and stuff. And it's every time I go out, which is what makes it so kind of addictive to do that. But it has turned out well for the stunt stuff as well, to be honest. What it does, it's like anything with the stunts. Maybe some of the things that you actually do in the movie look quite straightforward or are quite straightforward, but just increasing your whole skill set on the bikes in every area of motorcycling, it all adds up, and it's all kind of transferable, and so that you end up, being comfortable with whatever they throw at you on set, to be honest.
But when was your first breakthrough into the stunt game full time? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I probably started doing movies, like I say, bits of fighting and stuff for friends of mine who were directors and actors and everything. That was probably about 98 and 99. I moved down to London in 97, I think. And that was the time when I met those guys. They kind of said to me that the best way to get into movies, if it's the action side that you want to do, is to join the British Stunt Register, become a stunt performer. And literally straight away, I thought, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And so I found out, how to go about that in terms of what you needed as requirements to join. And I set about that training straight away. I was training different things every day, trampolining Monday and gymnastics Tuesday and kickboxing every day and everything I needed to do. And it took me probably 3 or 4 years to actually achieve what I needed to do and get onto the British Stunt Register. I think I got on at the end of 2000. And so then after that, it's a case of once you're on the register, that doesn't guarantee you any work. It just means that your CV is along with everybody else's CVs and people have the option to choose you. But it's hard. It's like any industry. If people don't know you and don't know who you are and you don't know anybody that's already part of that industry, it takes a while for people to start using you and to trust you. So, but I think my first jobs on the Stunt Register were 2001. So 20 years ago now.
20 years you've been on it now.
Yeah, it feels like I'm still one of the new guys. I still think I'm one of the young guys as well. Yeah, you just don't realize it goes so quick. You can do the movie I just finished before. So I just finished in March. I was on there for 18 months. And so, I'm 2 years older than I was when I started that. It's crazy. It's one movie and it just goes so quick, So, yeah, before you know it, you're not one of the new young guys anymore.
That's deep when you think of it that way. And you're seeing younger guys come through all the time as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they're doing the same job as you. And yeah, you're like, damn, they're the same age, same age as my son kind of thing. So it's pretty cool. It's
a cool thing. And you can pass on your skills as well and your experience as well. You become the teacher in that respect as well, I guess.
Yeah. And that's what I found strange at first as well, is that guys would ask me stuff on set and I would kind of look like, they're asking me something. And, I still feel like I'm learning all the time and I've still got more to do as a performer and everything. And most of the guys that I came through with and started at the same time as have gone on to coordinate movies now. So they're now in charge of putting together the action and employing the younger guys to come and actually fluff stuff and fall downstairs and get set on fire. Whereas I still enjoy doing that stuff myself. And I'm definitely not ready to hang that up and go on to doing all the fun to other people, I
guess is that a path that you're going to look at when the time comes? Do you fancy that side of it?
I don't actually. I think it's a different job, to be honest, a completely different job. I mean, being a performer sets you up pretty well with the skills and the knowledge that you need for that. I think it takes a certain kind of person to be the coordinator, and other coordinators have got really good vision and they're in a lot more into the filmmaking side of everything, and they can sort of visualize how they want the sequence to look and what they're going to need. I think that I'm much more kind of technical than artistic, if that makes sense. And so
that makes perfect sense. A doer,
yeah,
rather than a teller.
Yeah, I like working out the problems of the sequence, but I can't just come up with some amazing idea for stuff in my head. I can work with somebody else and help them achieve what they need to, which is a lot of what a stunt coordinator's job is. So I know. I won't say never, but it's not my goal for sure to move into that. But I might help people out, assisting with them. But I'm always going to be looking to for me to be the one in the car or on the bike or getting set on fire or something. I'd be like, I'll do that bit myself.
Actually, let me just show you how to do it. Let's just get to prove that you've still got it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, maybe
in later time. I don't mean now. I mean in later times. Obviously, you've still got it now with looking at the resume of the movies that you're doing. You faked it for this long. Get on with it.
Yeah, I know. I'll keep it stretching out as long as I can, for sure.
And rightly so. What was your first big movie breakthrough? I know you did a little bit of TV work in the beginning, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then taking that step into movies. How does that work? Because I know nothing about this industry. So it's a learning day for me as well. So I was interested at both sides to it.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I mean, when you get qualified and get onto the British Stunt Register, whether somebody's putting together a team for a TV show or for a movie, they go to the same place. They go to the British Stunt Register. There's certain coordinators who become involved with certain production companies or whatever. So they'll probably always coordinate, say, the bill when it was on, or Casualty or whatever. And so then they're pulling guys to work with that. So they're obviously TV jobs. At the moment, it's pretty busy as far as film work goes. There's a lot of films being made in the UK. All the studios' space is pretty much booked up at the moment. And it's very busy for the industry, which is great. And the video on demand stuff with Prime and Apple and Amazon and Netflix is all kind of added to that as well. So all the guys are pretty busy. 20 years ago, it was a bit more like there'd be sort of 3 or 4 maybe big films a year that came to the UK or that crewed out of the UK. And everybody else was kind of jobbing with TV and stuff in between. I mean, some guys love TV and make a very good career only out of doing TV. I love doing TV as well. If I get called for a day on, Coronation Street, I'll be just as happy to go and do that as I am to do the big film. It's just very difficult to mix the two things, because guys for TV, they know the guys that they can call that are going to be available for a day or 2 days next week or 3 days, whereas you tend to be employed on a bit longer term contracts if you're on movies. And so the guys that work more movies tend to be unavailable for the next 2 months, the next 3 months, they'll be doing a sequence or a whole movie. And so then the coordinators tend to stop calling them for the odd day here or there, because they know they'll probably be tied up with some movie for the next 3 months. So they tend to go to the same guys all the time. So it is difficult to mix the two, even though most performers would like to, including myself. Saying that, I've got day's TV on, I always think it's video on demand thing on Sunday, and the same, they just message you and just say you're free Sunday, and I'm in between sort of movies at the moment. So I love to go and do that. But it's something that people probably don't realize, that it's not necessarily a different bunch of guys with a different skill set. It's just some guys end up working for the guys that coordinate team TV, and then some guys for the guys that coordinate film. And it's like anything else. You somebody's called you once for one job, and they got on with you, and everything went well. Then the next time they're more likely to call you again. So that's just the way it ends up.
As you said before, it's the continuity, isn't it? It's the trust that builds between the crew and the stuntman and the coordinators. They know they're going to be available. They know that you get busy and you're off. So it's a difficult call for the more local stuff, really.
But then production companies are employing the coordinator and trusting that the coordinator gets the right person in to do the job. And so a coordinator is going to use, if he can, somebody that they've used before, that they know is capable of what they need them to do, which is why it's so difficult for the new guys to be given those breaks, and it's almost easier for the new guys to get breaks on movies, just doing sort of slightly less high profile parts in that movie, background, getting shot in the background and falling down, or driving, the 7th car in the line. And then eventually people get to know you and trust you, and you can kind of move up the ladder that way. But it's like any industry. If people don't know you, it's very difficult for them to put their reputation on the line, on the strength of somebody that they haven't used before.
Question. I've just thought of this as we were talking. In the early days of your career, as you were building your profile and working on bigger and bigger projects, what was the first opportunity you had for your jaw to drop when you were on set or whether you're on a location? When you suddenly went, what?
Well, an actress or something.
There's that. I hadn't considered that. I was thinking more from an action point of view. But if you want to go on that road, then tell us both.
No, I can't divulge who's on my list of 5.
Non-disclosure agreements are a pain in the ass. Even if you haven't seen one, you go into.
I'd love to tell you. I don't know. It's funny. I still do it now though, because like any job, I think you get used to things and things become normal to you. You know, you can be sat on literally on the walkway of the Millennium Falcon having lunch, going, bloody hell, I can't wait to go home. What time are we finishing today? You know, where there's 1,000 people outside the studio gates that would kill to get in there and get a peek at what you're doing right now. And it just becomes kind of normal. And every now and again, you've got to have a bit of a reality check and sort of sit back and say, wow, this is really cool. I'm really lucky. I am where I want to be. And I do that still, even now. And again, I'll be sitting in a car, on a bike, or, you know, doing a job that I think's very cool and a bit special. And I do actually sit back and think, this is pretty cool. I am where I wanted to be. And, you know, and I'm pretty happy with how everything's going. And I think it's good if you can do that, because it is so easy to get just drawn into the little things and into the negatives of everything. And you have got to stop and look and go, it's really cool that I can make a living doing this. Because it's all I ever wanted, really, when I got into the stunts. I just wanted to be a professional stunt performer. Just wanted to be able to say that was how I made my living. And then on the days that I wasn't working, I wanted to be able to be improving my skills and working towards, you know, I say improving everything and training specifically for being a stunt performer, rather than having to think about earning money on my days off. You know, and that was all I wanted. And, you know, I'm so happy that since 2003, I haven't had another job. I haven't taught martial arts or taught at the gyms and stuff since 2003. So the last 18 years is the sole way that I've been able to make my living. And then on downtime, I've been able to still focus towards, you know, improving my career and everything.
Dedication you've put to it is incredible. It's you see it on social media every now and again. You have the image of the iceberg where it shows the tip of the iceberg and then the dedication and everything underneath it and the training.
Yeah, I think I put that out the other day again, because people don't realize what goes on behind. But I feel like I'm lucky to have found something that I love doing. So when I've got a day off like yesterday and I can go and ride the bikes in the afternoon, that doesn't feel like I'm going to work. That feels like I'm going out to ride bikes, and I love it. And it all counts and it all helps. And you have to make that effort to, you know, to load the bikes, to go, you know, but what I'm doing is something that I really enjoy. And that counts for my days off and the days that are at work, you know. Every time I get a phone call for a job, I'm so happy, like I was the first time I got the first phone call. It's not like, oh no, I've got to go to work again. It's not like that at all. So yeah, I'm very lucky, and I'm sure that a lot of motorcycle racers feel exactly the same. You know, you can see them on social media, counting down the days till the test, or counting down the days till the first race, and it's exactly the same for me. They've found something that they can make a living doing, that they really enjoy. And so it literally is that you don't feel like you ever work another day in your life again, really. Just not always like that, actually. on days when it's peeing it down and you stood outside and falling on the floor like 27 times, sometimes it feels a little bit like work, but generally not. It soon washes off in both ways, yeah. That's for sure. Just on the side to, as you said about the guys testing, open invitation. Anytime you want to come to a British Superbike round, drop me a message and we'll gladly host you for the day. Come on down. Always.
And show you around.
I love motorcycle racing. It's still, yeah, I still follow all the motorcycle racing, and I get to the racing whenever I can. And yeah, I love it. It's always awesome day out. And BSB's the best, to be honest. Best of all of them. So yeah, no, I'll definitely take you up on that for sure.
You've got me on the Instagram, so you just drop me a message and we'll fix that up for you anytime you like. Not a problem. When was the first time you saw yourself on the TV, and how did you feel? Kind of a weird feeling, or was it?
I don't remember, actually. I think I did a film in the sort of late 90s. I think there was the guys that used to come and train at the gym. I used to work at a gym in Tottenham Court Road, which is right in the West End. And we had a lot of, let's say, actors and directors and stuff that actually helped convince me that was the route I wanted to take. And I did a film back then where I just played a real small part in it. And I kind of didn't tell anyone about it. And it was kind of cool then when I saw that at the cinema, and I was right there on the screen, and yeah, it was a cool thing. And I never thought the day would come that I'd do a day's work that I wouldn't remember, or, you know, I thought I'm going to remember every single day that I've ever done and every job that I've ever done. And now people are like, oh, you did that movie, so-and-so. I was like, did I? I can't remember. because obviously it accumulates, and you rack up so many eventually that they kind of blend into one a little bit. But I still like it. To be honest, these days I tend to end up doubling actors a lot more, which means that you don't really see yourself on screen. You see your work and the finished product and how a certain gag or a sequence came out. But it's not like people recognize you as much and go, I saw you in this the other day. I still get that from stuff that I did a few years ago and that. And I still like doing the odd cameo. It's always fun when you play yourself or see yourself on the screen there. But it's not so much anymore. I tend to come in and do more doubling stuff and everything. So or else I'm wearing a helmet or in a car or something. So it's kind of gone a little bit more that way these days.
Well, that's something that I found in my research that I didn't know at the time. I already had a good friend of mine who was part of the skydiving crew on Kingsman.
The first Kingsman
movie, a guy called Phil Curtis, his team did the skydiving scene. I didn't know until I was doing the research is that you did the fight scenes.
I doubled Colin on that movie.
Doubled for Colin Farrell in that. And that fight scene in the church...
Colin Firth.
Sorry, Colin Farrell. Colin Firth. My apologies.
Yeah. No, we did the church fight scene, and the bar fight scene.
And the bar fight as well with the umbrellas. Exactly. Talk me through those. They were incredible. That was incredible footage, incredible scenes. Talk me through those.
Yeah, that was a really cool movie to be involved with, to be honest. I'd done a movie back in 2008 called Kick-Ass, which was like a superhero movie, but kind of a dark comedy kind of thing. And it was, I think that was Matthew Vaughn that directed that. And then the coordinator on there, the stunt coordinator, was a guy called Brad Allen, who used to be part of Jackie Chan's team. He was one of the only Westerners on Jackie Chan's team. And he moved into coordinating and putting together his own sequences. And a lot of the sequences we did on Kick-Ass were really outside the box a little bit. You know, we did like a big fight sequence with loads of wires and everything, all in one camera move and everything. It was pretty innovative stuff, and really enjoyed that. Had a great time on there, got on well with Brad. And then when it came to the Kingsman about 4 or 5 years later, again, it was Matthew Vaughn directing. He had the same fight coordinator, Brad Allen. Brad was directing second unit on there as well, which means he was directing the action sequences on there as opposed to the dialogue and the acting. And he asked if I wanted to double Colin on there, and he went through what the movie was about, and it sounded really cool. And I was aware that Colin wasn't really known as an action kind of actor at all, you know, aside from the thing in Love Actually or whatever it is, the fight, the fight in the.
I believe he did all his own stunts in that fight scene.
I think he did, yeah. I don't think anyone else could have performed it quite like that, to be fair. And so it all sounded really cool. And so we went through this whole thing. We started putting together what's called a previs, which is like shooting the movie before you shoot the movie, basically, just to see how everything's going to turn out. And the fight sequence for the church was great. It was about 4.5 minutes long. It started non-stop. Same thing, shot as if it's one camera move, just literally going through and just taking out like 100 people in the church. And we shot that in a couple of days, and they added visual effects to it and everything. It looked amazing. It looked seamless. And then, we went on and worked with Colin for a couple of months, actually, to get him ready for that. yeah, between the two of us and all the other stunt performers in there, it came out really cool actually. And they left a lot of it in there. It's probably about 2.5 minutes in the movie. That's a full sort of fight sequence that goes on and on and on and on. And that's part of the comedy of it really, is that it's not like one brutal killing. It's just another and another and another and another. And just it was shot and everything, and the whole tone of it, and the music over the background. I just thought it was really, really different to anything else that had been on. So it was cool to be a part of that for sure. And I enjoy doing that stuff now. I mean, people associate me more with just vehicle stuff now. And I think it's just because as you get older and stuff, then they tend to pull in the younger guys a bit more for getting hit by cars and falling off of buildings and getting set on fire and that. And then you just naturally progress more into the less physically demanding stuff. But saying that, I still love doing all that stuff now. I still love doing a hard, wire pull ratchet, a hard hit to the floor, a nice hot gnarly bike crash or car crash, or getting set on fire or jumping off stuff. I still love doing all that stuff now. So hopefully I'll carry on for a little while.
I would think so. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos, especially on the Marvel universe. They show a lot of how stunts were made with the wire pulls, as you say. And they're pretty violent. Yeah. To make you look at it and go like, Jesus.
Yeah.
I know there's an awful lot of green screen involved these days, but there's still the physical aspect for what you guys do.
Yeah, for sure. People have always said that the green screen was going to take over, but it hasn't really. It's just changed a little bit the way that we work. We still do the same things. And I think people wouldn't want to watch things if they thought it was all CG. It just you may as well just watch a cartoon if that's the case. I would say the same about vehicle stunts as well. If you see a car tumble down a hill and it's just a piece of metal tumbling down a hill, there's kind of no feeling involved with that. Whereas if there's a guy inside that that makes it a completely different thing. Like watching Jackie Chan movies and seeing at the end how they did everything. People always want to watch things go a little bit wrong. So same with bike racing, you know that those guys are on the edge. If everything was 100% safe all the time and there were no crashes, it wouldn't be quite the spectacle it is, I think. I mean, nobody wants anyone to get hurt for sure, but it's definitely a part of racing. The same that, taking risks and pushing things a little bit further is also part of making action films. And that's what makes them exciting. And that's why people want to watch them, I think. And I think you'd always keep the human element in there, because otherwise it just becomes something different, I think.
Biggest hit you've had while doing the career?
Stuff that you don't expect, Ray, or that people wouldn't realize. It's a bit like, I'll keep coming back to the bike racing and vehicle racing thing. Involving massive amounts of G-force really takes it out of you. Massive. So massive changes of direction, changes of acceleration or deceleration really take it out of you badly. I've done stuff where I've got hurt, where I've been attached to a wire or whatever, and then riding a motorcycle, and then when the wire gets tight, it rips you off the back of the bike and stuff. And things like that are pretty violent, because obviously it's the massive G-forces involved from going 20 miles an hour that way to 10 miles an hour that way in 0 seconds, and they would take it out of you. For me, almost more than hitting the floor or anything like that. Anything where you can keep the momentum going. You could crash your bike at 100 miles an hour, go down and tumble, and as long as you don't get hung up on anything and nothing hits you and you don't hit anything, there's a chance you can get away with that. It's always easy to tweak knees or to something to get caught. The same with us, sometimes if you're doing something like that, I would rather not have any crash, not have any soft ground. You're better off going to concrete, because it's not going to grab hold of you. It's not going to suddenly pull your arm or anything. Like you see the guys, as soon as they go into the gravel traps, the gravel there to slow things down, and it will slow your body down at different rates. It'll slow your arm down quicker than it slows the rest of your body. So it gets ripped out behind you, and that's when you end up doing damage. If you can just slide along tarmac, as long as you don't go through your legs or anything, you can get away with it. And it's the same. And I've also done stuff like anytime you like hitting a tree with a car, it's an amazing impact. You can't describe to people really how hard it is. And after doing a few of those, I see how people get killed hitting trees with vehicles, because there's just no give there. The deceleration is just crazy. Even when the car's prepped and everything, the forces are still going through your body. You don't get the same sort of deformation of the car because it's prepared for that with a roll cage and harness and everything. But your body still has to stop in that short space of time, and you realize how fragile you are really with that stuff, and how you like to do it for real, for sure.
Keeping on just with the motorbike theme, we went on now 4 or 5 weeks ago. Mark Woodidge, we had Brains on the show. So he's in his way slowly but surely into it. He's prepping the bikes for yourself and for Kieran and for projects that you're doing. And I just start with, he spoke about his Star Wars addiction as well, which I'm sure you're well aware of. It's cool to work with people like Brains as well, attention to detail and how well he sets up a motorcycle, that amount to what you're doing.
For sure. I mean, I met Brains through Kieran Clark, who obviously came on to Mission 5 with us as one of the specialist motorcycle riders. And then I've become literally tight friends with Kieran since that point. And obviously he knew Brains from speed days and everything, and from being in the various racing paddocks. And yeah, he really is, top of what he does. And to have the opportunity to have my stunt bikes and everything worked on by him, and my track bike and everything, and set up by him, that it couldn't be any better than it is. And like you say, for him now to be helping out with these bikes for the movies, it puts a lot of confidence in you that everything's going to be absolutely in place and exactly as it needs to be. And yeah, it's crazy now that the opportunities that have come about through working with different guys, from where I started out when I was club racing. He'd have been horrified if he saw the bike I was I was going out with club racing. Probably had oval shaped head bearings and everything on that thing, just from me wheeling it all the time. But yeah, his attention to detail, and Kieran's the same actually. Kieran is absolutely obsessed with details on bikes. I mean, I'm not going to tell you about his titanium bolt addiction or his carbon fiber addictions. We're all a little bit like that. I think all guys that are into bikes, they like a few shinies and a few trick bits. They definitely make you go faster, for sure.
No question.
Yeah, for sure. But the people that I've been introduced to through that world and that have really helped me out, it's amazing. I couldn't have dreamt of it sort of 20 years ago, for sure. And I'm really grateful for everyone that helps us, everyone that I get the chance to work with. People like Brains, who's literally one of the top guys in the world, working in the most GP paddock,
Yeah, and we have a lot of time for Brains on the show. I like his company. He's a very dry sense of humor, but the knowledge and where he's been and what he's done is great. And he speaks very highly of you as well, which is great.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, we're good friends.
What's something I was going to say? I kind of had it in my head and then it's disappeared again.
That's because I talk too much. I told you I shouldn't drink coffee before I start.
I told you we'd head off at a tangent at any point.
You can cut whatever out that you need to. Otherwise, it'll be 6 hours.
I'm just playing the whole thing, mate. I'm playing the whole thing. Everybody can listen. This is what we do. I think organic is the word. It's an organic podcast.
I kind of like that, to be honest, when it's a bit more like that. But I've done stuff before, and the way that they've edited things that I've said, I'm like, damn, I didn't say those two things together. But it sounds really, really weird. Did you see the GQ thing I did a few? I said something when we were talking about, I think we were looking at some bike sequence on a movie and reviewing them and saying how stuff was done. And there was a huge bike crash on there that was sort of digitally enhanced. It was pretty much a CG crash, and the bike literally lands on top of the guy at high speed. And I was like, oh my God, I said, that's got to be CG. I said, I'd want some serious money to do that. And then I think I paused for a few seconds and then carried on watching the clip. And then I said, 100 pounds of motorcycle landing on top of you. I was aware that I was speaking primarily to Americans. So sure. I thought, I'll say 400 pounds rather than 200 kilos. So I said £100 of motorcycle. Anyway, when the thing's edited, it says I'd want a lot of money for doing that, £400. And I was like, no, £400.
There's coordinators all over the place going, he's cheap.
Wow, yeah.
Cheap and available.
We'll have two of those, yeah. I was like, no, a lot more than that, believe me.
That's reminded me where I was going. You say about the action sequence with the motorcycles. When you did, was it Mission 5? Jenny Tinmouth, I think Steve Plater was part of it as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And some others. That must have been really cool for you, even as you are established in your field, but to work with Kieran, Steve Plater, Jenny Tinmouth. Who else was on it as well?
Dave
Knight was on it, yeah.
Jamie Dobb. I mean, the guys that I met through that were incredible on the bike side and on the car side. The coach of that movie, a guy called Wade Eastwood, a very good friend of mine, top coordinator, done the last sort of 3 or 4 mission movies. And he called me up about it. And I think it was like 2014 or something. We did that, like May 2014. And he said, you know, we've got this bike sequence coming up. I want you to come along. We're going to test these guys out. We've got some of the top race guys coming and everything. And the names he reeled off, I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to get on this team for sure. It was literally top level rider after top level rider. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, so we all met at Goodwood, and there was a bunch of car racer guys there as well. Again, top names from motorsports. Got there, and there were these BMW S1000 RRs lined up there, like 20 of them with slicks on and tire warmers, and we just went out and had a ride around, and it was who could take direction and, you know, ride close to each other. And everybody had great skills. Obviously, some guys that they hadn't really ridden on a racetrack before, to be honest, because they'd come from another background, or they had, but it wasn't kind of their thing. And went for a couple of the stunt guys that were there as well. You know, they'd come from a motocross background or whatever it was. And we had some top level guys there. And yeah, just to be part of that team was just crazy. I literally used to go into the change rooms in the morning and look across at they had like a little box with everybody's gear in there, and the names that were on there, it was just like, you know, 5 times world champion, 4 times world champion, TT winner, and then me, and then so what the hell? But it's a different job, you know. And the guys were amazing, and they were aware that they were part of the team for their specific riding abilities and everything. And then, because I was worried that some of the guys might get offended if I doubled them for crashing. There was one of the pots where I think it was going to be Plater originally was one of the guys. It all got switched around because, as it does with movies, things evolve and things change all the time. And they want 10 riders, now they want 5 riders, now they only want 3, now they want, and it changed all the time. So there was there where he had to go into of the hero car, the M3 with Tom driving, and then Tom smashes him in the back and he goes over the top of the car. And to be honest, you know, it's a stunt. It's not something you would expect a professional rider to do, although they're perfectly capable in a skills capacity to be able to perform that. Why would they? It's not their job. If they get hurt, you know, some of these guys were still active racers at that time as well. To come on and to take a risk, taking some bends quickly is part of what they do day in and day out. But why would you risk getting hit by a car and going over the top of a car and everything? It's not necessary. And the guys were all super cool and understood that, and were, you know, everyone knew that they had their jobs to do. And I was really impressed with that, to be honest, because it's easy for people for an ego to kind of come into play and say, you know, I can do that. I can get hit by that car. I can do that. And it's the same with actors, I think, these days as well. A lot of the time, maybe actors get into wanting to do more than perhaps they should. I'm sure they're perfectly capable, but if an actor gets injured, if an actor breaks his ankle, that is a huge deal. That is a multi-million-pound problem for the studios. Whereas if I break my ankle doing the same thing, doubling that actor, they can replace me tomorrow. there's no problem about it, and everybody knows that's the way it is. That's part of your job. We take the same risks, and you know, but the consequences are much less if it's a stunt guy that gets hurt rather than the performer. For the movie, the consequences are much less.
Goes back to speaking of working with Tom Cruise, which you've done quite a lot on the Mission Impossible movies. He did that in a roof jump, hurt his ankle.
Yeah,
which
there's
an awful lot of his own stunts.
Yeah, and that is for real, and that is legitimate. There are guys that help set those things up and that will test out rigs and everything and make sure stuff's safe. So if anything goes wrong, you can try and iron out and anticipate problems before you ever put your lead actor onto there. But when it comes to actually shooting the stuff, Tom likes to do everything himself, and he's done some amazing stunts, a lot more than most stunt guys do in their career. You know, the opportunities he gives himself to do these massive stunts are more than the average stunt guy for sure will get in their whole career. And it's great, and I think that's why the movies it's one of the big selling points of those movies, to be honest. So you can kind of understand him taking those risks. And I guess it's his production company, and he's making the decision in the end as to whether the actor is allowed to do it. And he kind of says, yes, I am. And so he just gives himself permission and does it. And he's not stupid. He's very methodical and very sensible and very skilled with all these things. So he doesn't end up getting hurt. But something like that roof jump, you know, that had to be him in that sequence anyway. I think it was one of those things where if you'd have cut to a stunt double at that point, you could have a different way and done that. But
to follow the same track and the same camera angle, it was following him from the front, so it would have been really obvious.
Yeah, it was a Tom shot really, and they'd done it a bunch of times. But it's like anything: the more times you do something, the more you're multiplying that risk. You know, if you've got a 1 in 5 chance of getting hurt and you do it again, you've just added another 1 in 5 chance, and it just adds up the more and more you do it. And eventually you just land slightly wrong. It could have happened to any one of us. He didn't do anything wrong specifically, just the way he caught his foot that time, it just injured him, and it's the way it was. But yeah, he takes those risks where he has to, and I think he has to for that franchise, and it's become part of that franchise now. There's respect from him now.
It is now. It's set the bar. That's it. Of a lot of the sequences that you've done, when took the most takes to do, and did you ever think you were going to nail it?
Oh my God. It's funny.
These questions are off the cuff. I haven't even got these written down. These are just where it leads.
Normally, if you're doing something that's quite high risk, we'll obviously try and minimize the amount of takes. Because you are multiplying that risk every time you do it. So if you're doing something big, the crash that we did on Mission 5, the high side crash, we did that once. We, knew there's a good chance you'd probably injure something or doing that. Yeah. So we didn't want to do that too many times. And the same with any kind of big stunts like that. When you do things like the church fight in Kingsman that we spoke about earlier, the way it was shot, it was one of those things where it plays out as one complete camera move, and so have to tie seamlessly into one another. So even if the foreground action is perfect, something in the background might not just match, or the camera might not have moved in the right way. So you go again, and literally some of those takes in there, 28, 29 takes, I think. And by the time you get to like 11 or 12, you're like, oh my God. And it's not always you. Like I say, it might not be me making a mistake or the other performer making a mistake. It's just when all those things add up together. And sometimes you just think we're never going to get this. And you just have to persist and really narrow down what it is that you need and what's going on. Sometimes you've got to step away for a few minutes as well and take a break, and then come back and then say, okay, we need to do this, this, and this. And then you find you get it straight away. But there've been a few that have been like that. Usually too much of the high impact physical stuff, we try and limit the amount of times that we have to do that. But it's the small shots you wouldn't realize. Yeah, exactly.
So you're telling me now, you're destroying the magic of Hollywood for me. So you're telling me now that fight scene wasn't all done in one take. The next thing you're telling me that the church wasn't in America either, Rick.
No, It might have been somewhere near Guildford or something. I think it's one of those things that people go and visit it now, actually. They go and look at it from the outside. I think it was somewhere like that. It was like some garrison town or something, some church. But it does look exactly like that. And it's crazy. I've seen it on the internet that people have gone and had, selfies in front of this church. The church from Kingsman, which is bizarre because you never know when you're actually working on something. You don't know how successful it's going to be. It could have been one of those movies that just disappeared into oblivion and nobody ever heard of, or just became a small kind of cult thing. But it took off pretty well. Actually, the Kingsman thing. It was cool to have been a part of that.
It's a good eye into it. I like that one. I mean, I've got a list of some of the movies that you've worked on, which reads just like an incredible sort of who's who of blockbusters over the last sort of 10 years or so. A lot of Marvel stuff, Avengers Age of Ultron, Bond, Skyfall and No Time to Die, Captain America, Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, Fast and Furious, Batman, Jason Bourne, London Has Fallen, The Mission Impossibles, as we've spoken about, and Thor as well. That's a resume, Rick.
You don't realise, actually. Yeah, they kind of accumulate. We've been looking at quite a lot of the Marvel stuff was filmed in the UK in the past sort of 10 years or so. So, and with those things as well, a credit, you can't really tell whether I was there for a day driving in the background or whether I was one of the lead doubles on there. I've been fortunate. I've had quite extended runs on some of those films, and it's always good to be. I like to be part of a team put together a sequence as well. The rehearsals are great, and developing stunts and everything is also, a lot of fun for me. Whereas when you turn up on TV, when you do more TV stuff, it's a bit of a different job. You have to kind of look at what they're after and do it with as minimal rehearsal and everything because of the time constraints and the budget constraints involved with TV. But I actually liaising with the action vehicles department and the special effects department and how we're going to do this. We're going to put little wheels on the car. We're going to do this. We're going to, and all that side, because I like the technical aspect. Then I like to be involved in those things as well. And it's been great that with a lot of those films, I've got to work, behind the scenes in them as well as in front of camera. So it's funny when people ask me, so what have you worked on? I can never remember, and I just kind of I don't know, The Bill, Casualty, EastEnders.
Did I see one credit for Paddington as well? Did I see?
I know, it's Paddington 2.
Paddington 2. Oh, sorry, my apologies.
I didn't get onto the original. I did some driving on Paddington and some other stuff on I can't remember what, is it Hugh Bonneville? The guy in Paddington? Hugh
Bonneville's the other guy.
I've actually seen them, to be honest. But yes, yeah. I wasn't doubling for Paddington himself. It was sort of a bit of driving, and I think we were climbing across a steam train or something like that. It was a lot of fun. And jobs like that are great. It's in the Fast and Furious and the Marvel and Ghost Rider, Bourne and Bond. It's amazing, but sometimes on the smaller, more independent productions, there's just a nice atmosphere on there a lot of the time, and you can go in for a few days and really really have fun with your job without quite as much sort of pressure and stress.
Especially $1 million budget and things need to be done on time. You have set time frames, and the independents have a little more flexibility, maybe.
Even when you talk about small movies, it's almost like they have to be more organized and more bang on time, because they can't afford to waste the money or the location. They can't come back tomorrow and reshoot something. It's got to be now, and it's got to be, and it's got to be right, and everything's got to work. And so it's a little bit more like TV in that sense, that you just sort of solving problems of what using what you've got to give them what they're after. And I really enjoy both. And it's all a team that you work with. If you're working with a really good team, then no matter what the production is, to be honest.
Scenes give the most satisfaction.
To
complete at both ends of it, of if it's different to when you've finished the scene and you've the effort that's into it, the planning that's gone into it, and also, from being sat in the cinema seat and giving you the satisfaction, because they might be two different things.
Mission was cool for me. I really enjoyed it. Mission 5, I'm talking about the bike chase in Morocco. A lot went into that, and I was sort of helping liaise with the other departments as far as sorting out the bikes and the having to make sure that all the bikes and everything were prepped for relative for stunts and everything. And I really enjoyed it. And then I thought it came out really well, and it was pretty well received. Myself personally, the thing I did in that people know about is the high side crash at the end, and I felt I could have done it better, but I don't think I've ever been happy with a job that I've ever done 100%. I always think this could have been better or that could have been better, and I think it's the same with a lot of stunt guys. They're pretty much perfectionists and quite kind of critical and self-critical. Thought I could have performed it better. I thought we could have maybe shot it a little bit better. It was one of those things that you can't really rehearse. You can kind of go, well, I think the bike's going to go that way. It should travel about that far, and I think we'll tumble this way. But it's going to be different every time you do it. It just depends how that tire catches. It depends how it flicks. It depends if you get your foot caught on the bars of the bike or whatever. It's going to be different every time you do it. So it's so difficult to set up cameras and to set up everything to predict exactly where the rider and where the vehicle's going to go. You can only do it based on things that you've done in the past. So I was a bit disappointed when I saw the way it came out on the movie. Whole sequence, I was really happy with that. And the same goes with Kingsman, to be honest. There's a couple of little bits on there that I thought I could have performed a little bit better, but other people aren't watching that usually, to be honest. They're watching the whole thing. And what's hard is as well that you kind of get attached to rehearsals and to, I say to previs, the way it was shot in the rehearsals. We did this, and I did this little look, or I did this and that, and then on the movie, it didn't work out exactly the same. But other people that are watching that never saw the original. They're not married to that in the same way that you are, and so they just see it and take it for what it is. Wow, it's great and everything. And I'm like, I preferred.
It's a reference point again, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a. I don't know. I don't think I'm ever satisfied with anything, but I don't know. I think it's finished. I'll be able to just sit back and say, yeah, we did some cool stuff, and I had a good time. And as long as I always feel like I did the best that I could at that time, never want to feel like I backed out of anything or didn't hit it as hard as I could have or whatever. So, and I've kind of paid for that in the past. I've made mistakes and gone into stuff too fast or too hard because I didn't want to have regrets afterwards when I saw it on the screen and gone, damn, I should have hit him 5 miles an hour faster. I would have just done it on the day and then kind of dealt with it afterwards. Always trying to stay within safety, but just but still trying to push things a little bit so that I didn't have any regrets afterwards. But yeah, it's a difficult part of the job, I think. And I think I'm just one of those people that's never 100% satisfied, unfortunately.
I guess that must be quite difficult though, because you don't see the end product. I mean, you see the rushes on set to a point, but you don't actually see the full cinematic version till post-production. So what you did at the time, you'll see 6 months later.
Yes.
And yeah, damn, I should have done that or should have done that. That must be quite frustrating.
Yeah, it is. I say we've normally rehearsed or looked at the camera angles and what they were going to use on the day so that we're not completely in the dark as how it's going to look. But yeah, like you say, you don't know how it's going to cut into the sequence or how. A lot of times we don't even know where it fits into the storyline. We're like, oh, that's why I was chasing that guy. Not until you watch the movie, like months or years later could be, and you're like, you didn't actually see the whole script at the time. You only knew your little part, chasing this girl, fall down the stairs, get shot, whatever it is. And you don't actually know where it fits into the whole thing of the big story until you actually watch it.
Because invariably they're shot out of sequence, aren't they?
Yeah, and you will just get the page all the time for the part that you're involved in, and you don't even know who this person is or anything, And it's quite a strange thing, but it's also pretty cool. I almost sometimes don't watch the monitors specifically. If the director and the stunt coordinator say they're happy with it, I just leave it, and I don't even go and watch it. I just think, oh, I'll see how it all turns out in the cinema, you know. And yeah, if they're happy, because it's so easy as well to criticize things that someone else is happy with. At the end of the day, it's their movie, and they've employed me to do a job. If they felt I've done that job and they're 100% happy with it, then you know, I might tell them they're not right. You know, if they've got what they want out of it and they're perfectly happy, sometimes you've got to just walk away from that and say, okay, great, let's move on.
Thanks very much. I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
With I've got a couple more questions just to ask that sort of came to me. Is there a sequence that you've seen in the movies that you sat back and go, damn, I wish I could have done that?
It's funny, actually. People have asked me that quite a few times. And I know I can never think of anything. I always wish I'd done everything, to be honest. Whenever I see anything that's cool on any movie, I'm always like, damn, I would have loved to have done that. I think when I was getting into stunts, things like Fast and Furious and Triple X and some of these extreme movies started coming out, and I was like, God, I'd love to work on stuff like that one day, and I'd love to do some of those car stuff, and I'd love to do that bike stunt and everything. And then I guess now it's stuff that I did years ago in the same way, and so I wish I'd have worked on that movie, or, you know, been a part of that sequence. And I think I've just got grateful for the opportunities that I've had. And but yeah, for sure, I even now though, I'll see stuff and I'll see someone do a cool gag, one of my comrades, you know, or whatever, and I'll be love to have done that. Looks great, you know. You've just got to be happy for the person that they've been part of a cool sequence. You can't do everything, unfortunately. I'd love to do everything, but I can't do it.
One thing that you have been recognised for is with the World Stunt Awards, the Taurus World Stunt Awards.
Yeah,
that must have been a hell of an experience, going over to the state and be recognised for doing something that you love. That must be a pretty special time for you.
It's funny. It's a big sort of debate at the moment about whether stunts should be included in Oscars, because there's no Oscars for stunt performers. There's no BAFTAs for stunt performers or anything like that. And it's always been like the stunt guys would be in the background and, you know, doing stuff for the actors. And it's great. And most guys are really happy with that. And I'm really happy with that, you know. If people are happy with the job I did, that's enough, really. But it is nice to have these things. I think that the job's kind of evolving now, and a lot of the stunt coordinators and action designers, they're actually called now, their job's evolving more and more into writing, you know, huge sections of the story, especially for action films. Obviously, you know, they're very action based, and so the stunt coordinator will be heavily involved in coming up with parts, you know, real story parts and everything on these movies. And I think it is time that kind of got some recognition, not necessarily the performers, but more the designer who came up and conceived these amazing sequences. But the Stunt Awards is a cool thing because it's just our industry, and it's held every year in LA. At Paramount Studios, and it used to be a really big Red Bull sponsored thing, and it would be hosted by The Rock or Mr. T or Arnold Schwarzenegger and whatever, and it was a massive red carpet kind of deal, big live show and everything. And then it kind of got cut down, but it's still a really cool industry thing, and you'll still get some of the actors turning up there and in support for the performers. But it's just nice to be amongst all the stunt performers from all over the world, mainly from the US, but all the guys from the UK go, and some of the, you know, the other European stunties and everything will go over there, and it's a really cool night. And it starts like a montage of the year's highlights of stunts, basically. So, you know, if this Fast and Furious movie came out, and this Batman movie came out, and this came out, then there'll be bits of those stunts in this montage. And the first time I went over there, I was just so happy that something that I'd done was included in that sort of body of the year's work. It was just a really cool thing. Actually, mind whether I won the award for what we did or not. It was just so nice to be recognised amongst all your peers like that. The first time I went over there, I think it was 2011, something like that. And it was for the work we did on Inception, the Chris Nolan movie Inception. And there was some zero gravity fight sequence in there in a corridor. And we got recognized for that. And we ended up winning for best fight. The team did. There's a team of 5 of us. And it was great. Although for me, I like the award was one based more on parts that some of the other performers had done in there. There was a really cool fight sequence that my, one of the other performers did that I thought was better than the part that I did. And so I thought it won on the basis of that. So it was almost, I felt a little bit bad almost accepting the award, because obviously I mentioned everyone that was involved in it, but it felt like it didn't belong to me as much as it belonged to the rest of the team. So hopefully I'm clear in the speech for that. But then I managed to win twice more for the Kingsman church fight and for the high side on mission. And I felt that they were a bit more, not that I deserve, I don't know what to say. I just felt that I had more to. They were more personal. Yeah, they were. Yeah, they meant more to me because of how much more involvement I felt I had in the sequence and the reason for it winning. So it was cool. I say it's not something that you kind of strive towards, but you strive to do the best job that you can. And it's nice when your peers recognize that they think you did a good job. And so I was really happy with that. Yeah, it's great.
So I know you've, as we said earlier, you've been really busy this side of Christmas. You've been away in various parts of Europe and the UK. What have we got coming over the next sort of 12 or 18 months that we can look forward to that you've been a part of? Or can you not say?
There's a bunch of stuff kind of lined up because of the whole COVID thing that happened. I think a lot of movies that we worked on a couple of years ago delayed their cinema release because obviously they didn't want their box office figures to be like zero when the movie comes out because nobody's allowed to go to the cinema. So there's things like, I did some stuff on the new Bond movie on No Time to Die, just helped as part of the team there. Obviously can't say much about what we did on there until the movie comes out, but that's coming out later this year. So I'm there's some really cool parts on there that a lot of my friends and colleagues did, and I was there part of that team. So I can't wait to see how that comes out. There's even a thing that we did a couple of years ago called The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. The Hitman's Bodyguard, which was Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson, Selma Hayek. Yeah, exactly. And this is a sequel to that. And it seems like such a long time ago that we shot it. It was a couple of years ago now. And we had a great time on there and shot some amazing sequences. And I've been dying for it to come out to see how it came out. Because like I say, I don't really watch the playbacks when I'm on set. And there's a few things that we did on there that I'm like, I want to see how this works in the movie. And if it, if it looks as good as I think it's going to.
The first movie was really cool. So the second one will be equally as good, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know what you're going to get with Samuel Jackson and Ryan Reynolds. They kind of play those characters really well, and you know pretty much what you're going to get. So it should be really cool. And what I've seen of it and the trailers, everything looks great. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think it's so difficult when everything's so. Like I say, it's just stuff that we shot a couple of years ago that hasn't come out in cinema yet. So. I can't really think. I'd have to look at my IMDb and see what I actually.
That's all I do. IMDb will tell you what's coming out.
Yeah, it'll tell us what's coming out. Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff I haven't seen yet, actually, that has come out in the past couple of years. Like we did, the Wonder Woman thing. I didn't see that. Terminator, the new Terminator. I didn't see that, and spent couple of months over in Spain doing some driving sequences and that on there, and I didn't see how it came out. So I've got a lot to catch up on, to be honest. So
what is the next adventure taking you?
I'm not sure. I'm about to start rehearsals on something that I'm just doing a sequence on, but it's pretty exciting. It should be a real fun job. It's just hard that obviously we can't divulge detail.
I understand that.
It's so difficult. Yeah, but I'm going to be busy on this one until I think September or October. Another big budget movie. I'm getting involved at quite an early stage and helping with choosing and designing vehicles, and we'll help go through action sequences and everything. And it's nice, like I say, it's nice to be involved at that early stage, and rather than just coming in and saying, okay, there's your bike, there's the car, okay, crack on, this is what you do up there. To help and have a little bit of input into what we can actually achieve is quite rewarding when it all comes off. So I'm looking forward to that, and that'll be pretty much most of the summer for me. So just trying to rehearse as I can and everything at the moment in my own time, and make sure I'm as fit as possible and as ready as can be to go into that.
Enjoy healing as best you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. I tell you what, Rick English, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I've thoroughly enjoyed that. It was a while in the making, but I can't thank you enough for your time, as busy as you are. Maybe we'll catch up later in the year, maybe sort of towards as the winter kicks in, see where you've been, what you've been up to. I'd love to have the chance to chat again. And if ever you want to come to SB, as I say, drop me a message and we'll fix that for you.
Yeah, we'll get the other boys in next time as well. We'll get Kieran and they can, chat about their experiences working in the movies and how it kind of, was different to what they expected or what they.
But to have Kieran on as well, and to have you guys, the dynamic between you two would be fantastic.
Yeah, it'll give us a good extra chat again anyway, and we can talk about some different stuff, and be cool.
Of course it would. That would be brilliant. Rick English, thank you so much.
Awesome. No, thank you. It's a pleasure to.